Where did it start?
Good evening. I'd like to call this meeting
What's today's date?
May 17th meeting of the Council Rock School Board of Directors to order. I'm going to ask, we're being led this evening by the Holland Voices of Holland Middle School. Mrs. Vaughn is the director of that program. And I'm going to ask everyone to rise initially for the Pledge of Allegiance, and then to please remain standing for the national anthem. We're going to be led this evening by Athila. Sorry, it's not like no one's ever paused for your last name. By Athila Vrol. Please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight for the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave for the land of the free and the home of love, This is the Holland Voices Men's and Women's Ensemble from Holland Middle School. I'm Mrs. Michelle Vaughn. We are going to sing for you Homeward Bound, words and music by Marty Keene, arranged by Jay Alhouse. Our soloist tonight is Hope Donahue.
In the quiet, misty morning, when the moon has gone to bed, when the sparrows of their song, when the skies when the sun ceases gleaming, when the corn is past its prime, adventure's lost its meaning, I'll be homeward bound in time. I'll be gone to the pasture, shaking right to the plow. Set me free to find my calling, and I'll return to you somehow. If you find it's me you're missing, if you're hoping I'll return to the hot to be listening, in the road I'll stop and turn, then the wind will set me racing as my journey nears its end. And the path of me retracing when I'm home.
Mrs. Vaughn, they were terrific. I had to check that they were the middle school, so the high school is going to have some great singers coming up. Good evening. I'll ask for the calling of the roll by our secretary, Hua Rice. Hello.
Mr. Grubb?
Hello. Please call the roll.
I see how it is.
Present.
I see how it is.
Mrs. McKessie? Here. Mr. Block?
Mr. Block is traveling for business.
Mrs. Brooks? Here. Mr. Violet?
Mr. Violet is traveling for business.
Mr. Hidalgo?
Present.
Mrs. McKee?
Mrs.
Here.
McKee.
I'm sorry? I believe, did you say?
Mrs.
I can't
McKee.
hear. Okay.
Mrs. McKee, can you hear me?
Now I can, yes.
Mrs. McKee is with her family this evening as we're traveling.
Mr. Tate
Here.
and Dr. Filbert?
Here.
Very good. At this point, I'll turn to Mr. Funk and ask you to introduce us to your Student Advisory Board.
Thank you, Mr. Grubb. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the School Board of Directors, Central Administrators, Superintendent Dr. Robert Frazier. It is my pleasure for the last time this academic year to introduce Council Rock High School South's illustrious Student Advisory Board. I just want to take a moment to thank the students for their dedication and hard work this year, and especially thank our two graduating seniors, Chris O'Donnell and Hannah Devlin. Chris will be attending Bucks County Community College next year. He is enrolled in their criminal justice program. And Hannah Devlin will be studying engineering at the University of Pennsylvania. So we're proud of all of our Student Advisory Board representatives and wish our seniors the very best. Take it away, Chris.
Hello, my name is Chris O'Donnell. I'm a senior at Council Rock High School South. I'm also a student in the Public Safety Program at Middle Bucks Institute of Technology. Students from technical schools all across Pennsylvania competed in the 2018 Skills USA state competitions in April. The competitions were held on April 18th to 20th in Hershey, Pennsylvania. Middle Bucks had 35 competitors participating who earned a total of 3 gold medals, 1 silver medal, and 6 bronze medals. Middle Bucks Institute of Technology's Philanthropy Today Club will be receiving grants from the Norman Rabb Foundation in the amount of $5,000 and the Heenan Grant in the amount of $5,000. The purpose of the grants is to provide donations to nonprofit organizations that make a difference in the community. The Rabb family and Mrs. Bernadette Heenan will be meeting with the students personally to provide the grants at a breakfast held at Middle Bucks Institute of Technology next week. Cosmetology students traveled to Willowdale Elementary School to help the children participating in the school's production of the Aladdin with their hair and makeup for the show. The actors looked amazing, and our students enjoyed the opportunity to use their creative talents. Finally, our annual senior recognition ceremony will be held on Thursday, June 7th at 6:30 p.m. in the William Tennant High School auditorium. Please mark your calendars and plan to attend this event to acknowledge and congratulate the class of 2018. This will be my final Council Rock School Board report for the 2017-2018 school year. Thank you for your time and this opportunity to let you know all about the interesting things happening at Middle Bucks Institute of Technology.
Good evening. My name is Andrew Rosenfeld, and I'm the 9th grade representative for Council Rock South Student Advisory Board. Tonight, I'll be talking to you about Keystone examinations and the Golden Wings Spring Show. So yesterday, May 16th, marked the beginning of the end-of-course exams known as Keystones. First were the Algebra 1 and Literature Keystones, which began at 7:30 a.m. and went till about 9 o'clock a.m. These tests occurred yesterday and today. Next will be the Biology Keystones, which will take place May 21st and 22nd. These exams will also begin at 7:30 a.m. and go until 9 a.m. Students not taking these exams do not have to come into school until 10:05 and finally get to sleep in. Makeup days for these exams are May 23rd and May 24th. On May 30th, May 31st, and June 1st, our Council Rock South Golden Wings will be performing a Star Trek parody. This parody is a mix of Star Wars and Star Trek put together into one show. It will include all of the basic characters with about a 10% difference to their names, such as Han Sulu and Chewbacca. The shows on May 30th and May 31st will be at 7 o'clock p.m. at Council Rock South. 2 shows on June 1st will be at 6:30 p.m. and 8:30 p.m. This play was directed by Grace Kaplan, Nicole Wusati, and Jen Guo. It's going to be a great show. Thank you for listening, and I hope all of you have a great summer. See you next year.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Nick Milmore, and I'm the 10th grade representative for the CR South Student Advisory Board. And I would like to say it is an honor to be in front of you guys tonight for the final time this 2017-2018 school year. Tonight, I will be talking to you about the upcoming Achievement Breakfast, Middle School Visitation Day, class officer elections, recent and upcoming music events, and AP examinations. The CR South Achievement Breakfast will be held during first period in 2 weeks from now on May 31st to honor a select group of students who have had academic success and achievement throughout the school year. To those who earned this award, I would like to congratulate you all on your diligent work in the classroom this year. On June 1st, the future of CR South, the class of 2022, will visit for a tour and shadow of South to show them the student lifestyle here. On Friday, May 25th, there will be class officer elections for the classes of 2019, 2020, and 2021 at their select times throughout the school day. Last Friday, the CR South Orchestra had a memorable night and enjoyed America's pastime playing the national anthem at Citizens Bank Park for the Phillies game against the New York Mets. And this upcoming Wednesday, May 23rd, there will be a music concert in the CR South Auditorium at 7 p.m., along with a concert during the school day at 9:45 a.m., third period. And after a few weeks of AP exams going on at South, tomorrow will conclude with European history. I would like to say before I sign off for the last time this year tonight, that it has been an honor to be speaking in front of you, the board, for 2 years now. Thank you, and I hope to see you all again next year as I become an 11th grader. Have a great and enjoyable summer. Good night.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Bree Kirk, and it is a pleasure to be representing Council Rock South Student Advisory Board for the final time as the 11th grade representative. As the school year is rapidly coming to a close, many important events are occurring throughout the school. On Wednesday, April 25th, over 70 students were inducted into the National Honor Society. Led by advisor Ms. Rosalie Falchek, the current NHS officers symbolically and literally passed the torch to the incoming officers. Members accepted into this chapter of the Honor Society represent the best and brightest that South has to offer, and they should all be very proud of their accomplishments. Congratulations to all inductees. April 28th, our junior prom was hosted at the Hyatt in Princeton. Everybody looked amazing, and the great DJ made for a fun-filled night. Some highlights of the night include the reveal of our prom court and the delicious ice cream bar. Big thanks to Student Council and everybody else who helped to ensure a great night for all of us. On May 29th, juniors and seniors have the opportunity to attend a presentation by Chris Herron. Chris is a former high school, college, and professional basketball star who had his career derailed as a result of multiple addictions. Mr. Herron travels to different schools to speak about addiction and the struggles he has faced because of it. It is an inspirational presentation that offers information to students about substance abuse and decision-making as a young adult. All eligible students are encouraged to attend. The last topic I will be discussing tonight is Council Rock South's annual art show. Showtimes are May 23rd, 24th, and 25th from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. This year's shows represents countless hours of thoughtful planning, practice, and hard work. We hope to see many students and family members at the shows. Thank you all for your time, not only this evening, but throughout the meetings through the year. I look forward to speaking to you next fall as a 12th grade representative, and I hope you all have a wonderful summer.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Hannah Devlin, and I'm the 12th grade representative for Council Rock South Student Advisory Board. The senior prom is just one day away. The tickets have been purchased, the tables have been set, and the last time I checked, the spray tans have set in. This year's theme is A Night in the City, which is fitting for a prom that will be held in Philadelphia at the National Constitution Center. We wish the seniors a safe, fun, and memorable night. It's hard to believe it's already been a month since the senior trip in Florida with the butterbeer in Universal and the fireworks at Magic Kingdom still fresh in everyone's minds. In the rare case it is not fresh in anyone's mind, just check the many Instagram posts. The 3 planeloads of South students reveled in nearly perfect weather as they shared one of their final experiences as classmates. As we speak, the 10th annual District Science Night is underway at South until 8 p.m. This year, it has been renamed STEAM Night because it incorporates science, technology, engineering, art, and math. Some exhibits include a planetarium, crystal towers, homemade ice cream, the Jungle Joe Animal Extravaganza, and the always popular liquid nitrogen demonstration. A shout out to CREF for sponsoring the event once again. And now here are some important upcoming dates regarding end of the year activities. Yearbook distribution is Friday, June 8th. Graduation rehearsal and the senior luncheon are June 18th. Finals for underclassmen start on June 18th. Senior recognition night is June 19th. And finally, the last day of school for students and graduation is June 20th. Speaking of graduation, this is my final report after 4 years on SAB. It has been a pleasure to report to you on the many happenings at South. For those in the audience who may be confused about what they are about to witness, it is a tradition for the graduating seniors on SAB to perform at their final meeting. Believe me, I checked, but there's no way to get out of it. Hit it, Bree. Walt Snyder Stadium, your picture in the Talon, Swamp Road, Rockaway, dress up on Spirit Day. Travis Mannion, NHS, you be the chemist, Golden Wings, another play, AP test today. Dr. Rosenthal, the prom, Mrs. Devlin is my mom, science night is tonight, Warwick's drones in flight. Mrs. Keyser, SAB, school board meetings on TV, volleyball, Mr. Wright, blue, white, and gold night, this district I admire. With students always learning as the world keeps turning, CR's what I admire. I am always going as the world keeps going. Council Rock, Scott Spunk, Dr. Fraser, Mr. Funk, Cardi teaches poetry, Easterly for chemistry, Student Council Winter Ball, festival that's in the fall, Pink Out, Gold Rush, watching football. Now high school's at its end, graduation's here, my friends, gonna go to UPenn in Philadelphia. 4 years at South High really makes me wonder why time has to fly. Council Rock, goodbye, this district I admire. With students always learning as the world keeps turning. CR's what I admire. I was always growing as the world keeps growing.
And I love how Hannah actually gives tribute to the band.
Yeah, me too. I know it's informal for the junior to speak last, but I'd like to thank Hannah Devlin for being an excellent role model, not only through SAB, but also throughout the school week.
Hannah, that was awesome. I don't want to follow it.
We don't want you to.
No, you really don't.
And I got it next year.
I say, that's what I was thinking. The three of you, guess what?
All right.
Nice. Well, we can't wait. Awesome job.
Thank you.
Awesome job. Congratulations. You all make us very proud of South, and you have all year. Thank you.
Hannah and Chris,
wait.
don't forget to take your name. Chris, you're graduating as well, right?
Yeah,
And you're going
take that
to
name,
do public
please.
service where? What are you're going to? Where are you going after?
Oxford.
Would you like to stick around and help us give? We're doing a police recognition.
Sure.
Would you like to stick around?
That'd be
Chris,
fantastic.
Do that. It kind of relates to what you're going into, so we appreciate you to stick around. Hannah, everyone, thank you. Have a great summer. Terrific career. It starts at University of Pennsylvania.
Thank you.
Thanks, Hannah.
All right, good evening, everyone. Good evening, members of the board, members of our Council Rock community. As you can see, we have a number of our police force partners from around the community here this evening. It's not because something is wrong. It's because last week was National Police Week, and we look forward to this evening every year and having a chance to really honor our partnership as a school district with our 4 different police departments that service all 5 of our municipalities in the Council Rock School District. They keep us safe, they keep us secure, they help our students feel that way, they help our staff feel that way, they help their superintendent feel that way. Always willing to help us out, always willing to take a call, even at 3:30 or 4 o'clock in the morning to say, hey, what's your take on those roads in January, February, or as was the case this past winter, March and April, unfortunately. But they are always, always there for us, and we are tremendously appreciative of that. Whenever our needs are, we know that those needs are going to be met. And of course, at both of our high schools, we have a school resource officer program. So we are particularly proud of that and thankful for that level of partnership as well. So what we are going to do, and gentlemen, I'm going to hand certificates to you. Maybe together you can pass those out as the officers come up here into the center, and we'll be ready for a photo op at the end maybe. Ms. O'Grady? So again, we have 4 different police departments that service the school district. I'm going to go one by one here, starting with Newtown Borough and their new police chief, Chief James Sabbath. Corporal James Warnick. Officer George Rosinko. From Newtown Township Police Department, I don't think Chief Pasqualini is able to be here this evening. Is that correct? All right, certainly want to recognize Chief Pasqualini, though, because he is a tremendous leader for the Newtown Township Police Department and one of the stalwarts of our local police force. Lieutenant Jason Harris. Lieutenant Robert Matthews. And our school resource officer at Council Rock High School North, Officer Renee Hurst. From Northampton Township Police Department, Chief Mike Clark. And our school resource officer from Council Rock High School South, Officer Jim Caldwell. And from Upper Makefield Township Police Department, we have our Chief Mark Schmidt. Okay. Yeah.
Very good.
Fantastic. So again, thank you very much.
We have somebody, George, who's not here.
All right, so we have a couple other special presentations this evening. One is recognition of a recent event that was our Special Olympics. We have some Special Olympians who are here this evening. It was a beautiful day a few weeks ago, and at this time, I would like to introduce Ms. Wendy Lausch, teacher at Council Rock South.
Thank you, everyone, and welcome. My name is Wendy, and I'm a teacher at Special Education at Council Rock South. I also have the honor, as do many in the district and in the audience tonight, to help prepare our students for the Bucks County Special Olympics track and field event that's held each spring at Council Rock's North Walt Schneider Stadium. The Special Olympics was started almost 50 years ago by Eunice Kennedy Shriver as a day camp for children with intellectual disabilities at her home. Her ultimate vision was people with intellectual disabilities could all compete and unify the public that come from all different situations. The organization now provides year-round training and competitions in a variety of sports to over 5 million athletes worldwide. Although we aren't 5 million strong yet, the track and field event held at North draws athletes from ages 8 to 108, and it certainly unifies our school community from elementary to middle to high school to even our post-secondary graduates. This year, we had over 100 student volunteers, multiple coaches from classroom teachers, PE teachers, physical therapists, support staff, and I would like to send a thank you to all of them for the work they do behind the scenes to make that day successful for our students. We had stands full of families and community support that provides a backdrop of cheers and motivation for our athletes, and thank you for all that you do. We as Council Rock School District had 9 schools that participated, as well as some of our graduates returning to our team to compete. Across all levels, we had 66 athletes that dedicated their time to train and be ready to bring home gold, silver, bronze medals in running, javelin, tennis ball, softball, long jump, standing long jump. Their hard work, dedication, and infectious smiles is what makes that event so great. It is with great honor that I would like all of you to recognize the hard work and dedication of our athletes. Will the superintendent and board president please come down to hand out certificates? I don't have names in front of me. If I can hand them over to you guys. Work. Okay, if I call your name, come on down to receive your certificate. Austin Hidalgo. Gavin Greaves. Sidhu Pillai. Laurie Ann Bobst. Parker Ferguson. Aiden Levin. Stephen Jones. William Mendenhall. Matthew Pay. Aiden Madison. Cameron Ditmar. As many of you may or may not know, the track and field event is just one of many sports that the Bucks County Special Olympics offers. They run programs both for fun and for competition in the fall, winter, and spring. This summer, the Special Olympics USA Games are being held in Seattle, Washington. There will be one male representing the entire state of Pennsylvania in the powerlifting event. I would like to think that it was my track and field training that got him there, but I can't take any credit for the 6 days a week that this student puts in for his training. Cameron Ditmar, a student in our Achieve program, will be going to the games this summer to represent Pennsylvania. Cameron, on behalf of all of us, we wish you the best of luck this summer at the Special Olympics US Games, and thank you and good job to all of our athletes.
Everybody smiles? Everybody smiles? Let's see. Mom's got the most film of anybody I've ever met.
All right.
It looks just like
if I hadn't heard it, I would have Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah, I could tell your son looks a lot like her.
All right, that was fun. Accolades well deserved. And another accolade that is well deserved in our final moment of recognition this evening is actually for one of our teachers. Miss Kim McKenna, come on down. Miss McKenna. Hang on up here for a minute. Miss McKenna is a physical education teacher at Council Rock High School North. And as educators, we all have primary professional associations. Hers has a long title. It's called the Pennsylvania State Association for Health, Physical Education, Recreation, and Dance. Did I get that right? Okay, good. So what happened is that this professional association has named Miss McKenna as the Southeast Region winner for Educator Excellence, which is an award that goes to the outstanding teacher with 3 to 5 years of experience. We are incredibly proud and thankful for your work that you do every day with our students. So, thank you. Thanks, Kim. She's a great teacher, right? That's right. I did hear that today's birthday day. Yes. I was going to save you from that, but someone let the cat out of the bag. All right, I'll finish my report from down here and just take a couple moments to do so. Earlier this evening, before the board meeting began, we had a wonderful celebration of our retirees. This year, I'm not sure if we have any who is still here able to come to the meeting or not. We have a total of 28 retirees this year with 630 cumulative years of experience. And I would say 630 cumulative years of wisdom that we are going to miss. We are indebted to each of them for giving up their careers to the Council Rock School District, and in particular to the children and families of the Council Rock School District. So we thank them. We thank them tremendously. We are going to miss them, and it's virtually impossible to replace that kind of experience. But we want to say thank you to that group. A couple other thank yous. We want to thank CREF and Newtown Middle School for Saturday's final farewell to the school. It was a wonderful event on Saturday afternoon. I know some of the board members were able to be there as well, celebrating 64 years of history, from being a high school to becoming a middle school, and a couple iterations in between. It was absolutely fantastic. To see multiple generations there together celebrating was fantastic. So job well done by CREF, job well done by the staff at Newtown Middle School for making that a wonderful send-off soon for that school. I also want to thank our Council Rock Art Department who put on our school district art show last weekend. Again, board members, I know that some of you had a chance to make your way over there. Absolutely fabulous, very impressive work, and we could not be any more proud of our student artists as well as our staff in the art department here in the school district. And lastly, just a calendar reminder that 1 week from tonight, we will be presenting in this room our new demographic projections. Those are ready now. We are recently in receipt of them. They will be released publicly tomorrow. We've been working very hard and very quickly to start analyzing and processing those. Next Thursday, May 24th, 7 p.m., here in this room will be a presentation from Cropper Demographics so that we can gain a sense of what kind of enrollment spikes or declines we might be looking at over the next several years. I do want to point out that there will be no redistricting conversation as part of that meeting. So if you're looking for that, please hang on. That'll be coming back up, that process in the fall, but this will focus strictly on enrollment projections. Again, 1 week from tonight, next Thursday, May 24th at 7 p.m. here in this room, also televised live on CRTV. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Frazier. At this point, I'll ask the solicitor, Mr. Cox, for his report.
Nothing to report, Mr. Grubb, other than executive sessions on April 28th and May 10th on personnel and labor negotiations, respectively.
Very good. Thank you. I need the sign-ins for public comments. Oh, look. Did someone grab this one? We're going to have a period of public comment now. Public comment is an opportunity for members of the public to address the board. We would ask that you limit your comments to no longer than 3 minutes. Please consider the fact that there may be young children in the audience who are watching the broadcast live on CRTV or on YouTube when speaking. It is our goal to maintain a respectful environment so that members of our community have an equal opportunity to address the board without interruption. While the board welcomes your ideas and will consider them in deliberating an issue, we may choose not to respond to your comments or questions this evening from the podium. I will remind everyone that we have a 3-minute limit. When you have 15 seconds left, I'll raise a card that tells you have 15 seconds left, and then I'll ask you to conclude at 3 minutes. Our first speaker this evening is Mr. Statler from Holland, Pennsylvania. Good evening, Mr. Statler.
Rick Stetler, Holland. During budgets, everyone is looking mainly at salaries, but let's look at employee benefits. In Council Rock, that percentage is approximately 61%, 61 cents for each dollar of wages. Neshaminy is 58, and Pennsbury is 58. What's the main reason? The main reason is pensions. For 2017, the pension ratio is 32.57%, 33 cents on every dollar. In the private sector, you're lucky to get a 3 to 4% match on your 401k. So how has the liability, the net pension liability done? In the last 3 years, the Dow Jones went up 26%. That is 3 years ended June 30. In the same period, the average contribution by the districts was approximately 29%. So how much was the pension liability decreased? Mr. Reinhardt, he's not here, but he knows the answer. I don't know whether you know the answer. It wasn't decreased. It increased a whopping 27%, despite those stellar performances. Why did that happen? At the Council Rock level for 2 years, our pension liability, our net pension liability, went from $331 million to $409 million. It's based on a 7.25% return. If that percent return is decreased 1%, that liability goes from 409 to 501,000, $500 million for one school district's pension liability. The reason is it's basically unsustainable. A teacher starts at 22 years, okay, quickly gets a master's, retires at 62 or 63 years, and gets a 6-figure pension for life. A couple years later, they get $22 or $20,000 of Social Security. It is just unsustainable. Some people say the Pension Reform Act of 2017 solved it. It didn't solve it. It's not effective until July of 2019, and it doesn't affect the main group that causes the pension liability, those hired before 2010 or 2011. What are the ramifications? In the future, it's going to be 36%. If there's any more actuarial assumptions, it could go to 40%. If there's a change in the legislature, we're going to have sales taxes, income taxes for education. They're not for education. They're for this pension liability. Everybody knows that. All the programs you want, you're not going to be able to get. You're going to face this pension liability. There's a couple.
15 seconds.
I can't do it in 15, so I'll leave it till next time. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Stepp. Next up, we will be hearing from Mr., I apologize, Mike Van, no? Your handwriting and my reading, am I correct? And Kevin Campbell will be following Mr. Mike.
Thank you.
Mike.
Last name is Van Squeak. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm sorry, I apologize.
No, that's no problem. I'm here to talk about a little bit of the redistricting. Just want to touch base on a little bit of what I know of is like the quarry trucks. As we saw last week, a friend of mine, his cousin died, never made it home. As we see today in the news, what happens when an 80,000-pound dump truck hits a school bus? Not a good thing. I mean, 2 dead, 42 injured. Now, this is where I run. This is where I make my money. Now, about 10 years ago, our rates got cut. When our rates get cut, we got to drive faster. We got to get more loads done. That's how we make up. On top of that, everything goes up. Fuel goes up. Shop rates go up. They went from 75 an hour to 120 an hour. Parts go up. Trucks go up. You're looking at 150 to 200,000 for a truck. Then you got to pay back in 7 years. So you got to keep running them trucks hard, fast, and you're putting a lot of responsibility and liability between the driver and bus drivers to have buses go basically through the main hub of them quarries. On your average day between the quarries, between 2 quarries on 2nd Street Pike and Swamp Road, you'll see between 175 to 200 trucks cross them scales each quarry per day by 1 o'clock. They open up at 4 and they keep going all the way through. The whole entire thing is a lot of guys, they get distracted. As I said, friend's cousin lost his life. That was a brand new truck, no problems with it, no mechanical things. He was just new to the road. That road, if you ever drive down at 80,000 pounds, the truck drifts back and forth the whole entire way. You're doing a lot of counter steering. You got to fight the truck just to drive them down a lot of these roads. Now, when you start putting school buses on it, you're putting the odds of somebody getting hurt, somebody falling asleep, somebody not paying attention, a little bit more of an accident can possibly happen. Now, as I'm speaking as a father of Northampton, but I'm also speaking for Wrightstown and Newtown because I do not feel it's safe for them to come down to Richboro to go to school, and I don't feel it's safe for Richboro kids to go up. If there's another way to actually more or less bring it around the main traffic area of them quarries, might be a better solution of what to do. And on top of that, a lot of these trucks have slack adjusters. They're supposed to adjust automatically. They don't. They fail. There's pins inside of them that has a lock. A lot of times, DOT is not up there. A lot of guys run back roads. That's why you see DOT at the bottom of the bypass. Sometimes when you cross over on 995. Sometimes trucks are safe. Some are not safe. But the whole entire problem is when your budget keeps on getting bring down because you're not making the same amount of money as you used to. Your bills go towards paying your truck, paying your house, providing for your family. Preventive maintenance is last. And just hope when you guys make a decision, just take all that into consideration.
I do appreciate your comments. The challenge in this community, it's a long-standing challenge
It's
with
very
the quarries, with the they are heavy trucks, and we will take that into consideration. We do take it into consideration. I know as a man who drives for a living, CDL operator, truck owner operator, you appreciate the necessity of safety, and I appreciate that and your comments about that. I know that Newtown, and it's the bane of the existence of a truck driver, but Newtown has an aggressive truck program on the bypass, and that's done in part to help support our need to have children on those roads as well.
Yes.
So I appreciate what you say. I'm sure we contemplate as much as we can. Rerouting around those spaces is difficult because, again, you put the children on the bus longer, which also has inherent problems.
Yeah, no. It took my daughter 45 minutes to get home. It's an hour, or it's a mile 22 from my house. It takes her 45 minutes to get off the bus.
I appreciate your comments. I do appreciate you coming forward with a perspective that we wouldn't often hear. So I really appreciate your coming forward with those insights we would not otherwise have. So thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Campbell, unless Mr. Tate wants to speak.
You might present it better than me, but no. Good evening. Kevin Campbell, Upper Mayfield. I couldn't make the wonderful presentation by the Finance Committee, although I did hear it while I was driving to Pittsburgh the other night. I believe that presentation showed a $4.6 million deficit, give or take a few. And tonight, there's some discussion about a 2.5 increase of millage. From where I'm standing and from some of the residents I've spoken to, in simplest terms, we're spending more than we should. And there's various reasons for that. There was a discussion earlier about the pension. That's one factor. There's health contribution. That's another factor. And one of the questions I have is, what are the contributions today by the employees? And should they not be increased to bring some of that deficit down? Recently heard that we have a contract with one of our providers, Aramark, and it's showing a $17,000 yearly loss. That's overtime substantial, and that should be looked at. If the food service industry has changed, and it has, from my perspective, there's a whole new trend of healthcare. Maybe we can get a 2-for-1. We can get a better healthcare program, a health food program for the kids, and we can break even on that. Breaking even would be better than a loss. We have several capital projects that we are undertaking right now. Maybe we should slow down on some of them. Maybe we can't afford some of them. We have to do this because where I'm standing, I see an impact for years to come that is not going to be this board's problem, but it's going to be other boards' problem. I remember 8 years ago, we said we didn't want to have this debt service. We still have it. And the numbers don't look like they're getting any better. The biggest concern I took away from that presentation, Dr. Reinhardt said he was concerned. I don't think I've heard him say that since I've been actively listening to these meetings. That, to me, is a wake-up call for everyone in this community. He runs the numbers. He does a great job. But he's concerned about where the numbers are going. We have to take this budget seriously and start looking at creative ways and new ways to reduce our debt service just a little bit, or maybe it's something that we want to have that we just can't afford, or a project that we just can't do until it's absolutely necessary. From what I understand, we have more projects in the tune of 26+ million for renovations next year. Well, I don't know how we can substantiate that on a long-term scale. So those are my comments. I appreciate it. I know you guys do a lot of hard work, and these are tough decisions, but it also impacts the community you serve when you're looking to raise those millages. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Campbell. I want to make a point of clarification. He's not incorrect. Mr. Campbell spoke to a $17,000 guaranteed loss, or a maximum loss, let me put it that way. It is a maximum loss on the food service program. When the food service program runs in this district, at one time, through the revenue of the sales, we had a guaranteed income to the district, and it was on the order of, at one time it was $120,000, and over the years it has gone down. And now the maximum loss the district can have on our food service program is $17,000. It is a function of some of the expenses we have. It is also a function at some level of some of the programs we have in lieu of free and reduced lunch for some students. There are trade-offs in the free and reduced lunch program between what is the mandated prescribed menu and what will actually what the students will actually eat. And this district has chosen at the high school level not to participate in the free and reduced lunch. I'm not saying that's the only reason. I just want to give Mr. Campbell, I'm just trying to give context, because when someone hears that we planned on a $17,000 maximum loss, that's part of that process. So I'm not disagreeing your numbers. I'm not going to disagree with them. I just want to give them some context. That was all I had signed up for public comment. Were there anyone else who intended to speak this evening? Very good. Thank you all for your participation this evening. And I hope you appreciate it. We are trying to have some correspondence and back and forth when the items are factual. We don't have to express an opinion, because if we all start to express an opinion, and comment will take, and board conversation will ensue. I'm going to ask for a motion. Mrs. Brooks, for item G, which is the approval of the board minutes.
I move to approve the April 19th, 2018 meeting minutes as posted.
Second.
Unless I hear an objection, I'm going to ask for the recording of those as having passed with unanimous consent. There is a separate item for presentation this evening. I apologize to the board. It was not listed. It was a memo we had received regarding a student presentation of some work they've done recently, and Dr. Frazier has called that to my attention that I had neglected to ask him to include it.
And I'll be happy to introduce it. We recently had a teacher at North, Miss Holly Woodard, and an English teacher, and several students recognized by the Pennsylvania Association for Educational Communications and Technology for innovative learning, and they were asked to participate in the Student Technology Showcase actually at the State Capitol building. So they are here with us this evening and have a presentation for us, and we're excited to hear and see all about it.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for the opportunity to talk tonight. My name is Holly Woodard, and I'm an English teacher at Council Rock North. I teach English 11, and I also teach virtual English 12. Our classroom was recognized by PAECT, which is an organization that works to advocate for innovation and technology and learning. We were recognized by the state to come and speak at the Capitol building to advocate to the state legislature about the importance of technology and innovation in education. So we had a vote in class, and 6 student leaders were selected. So we have here tonight Anna Gambesha, Cooper Rolipsky, Cole Verdame, Julia Adams, Nick Forsyth, and Jenna McCaffrey. And they were students that were selected to go to the Capitol building and speak to the legislature. And essentially what they learned there was that the real power and the decision-making for advocating for technology really occurs here in the room. So we asked for an opportunity to present to you guys about why we think, or they think, technology is important in education. So they are going to talk to you today. So wish them luck.
Hi, I'm Cole. So what makes Miss Woodard's class different than other traditional classrooms? Well, in a traditional classroom, we're used to books and paper and lectures from your teacher about a book that you had just finished reading or any other English topic. But I think what makes Miss Woodard's class a little different is that our school was given 14 laptops to work with in our classroom. And with these laptops, we've had greater access to like information and the internet. It's a pretty efficient and progressive approach to learning. It keeps students interested and attentive during class. There's so many different ways you can remodel like testing and assignments to help improve a student's education. And so normally after we finish a book, we'll write a small essay on, yeah, we have.
Yeah, that's a little bit later in the presentation. But for now, after we finished our a separate piece book, which we read earlier in the year, we would normally have written an essay about it and answered some one analysis question in an essay, but instead our teacher, Mrs. Woodard, gave us an assignment called a Flipgrid. A Flipgrid is basically a video response. So we were given a bunch of different analysis questions instead of just one to answer in an essay. And instead of writing it down, we were given our Chromebooks, our laptops, and we just sat in the class and spoke into the camera and answered the questions. This was really helpful for our class, I think, because we didn't have to worry about our grammar and proofreading a bunch of times. And we were able to get out our initial thoughts about the book and how we really felt, and we expressed it directly. And yeah, I thought it was really, really helpful, and it got some students that were not so involved in our class and don't really like English that much. They were really involved, and they were able to stay on task and stay inside because we were using stuff we were familiar with, like technology. So.
And here's just a sample that we have. There was a common theme that was present when I asked them how did they feel about the book, and I think you will recognize the theme.
Some parts of the book were really boring. There were some really long sections that I just did not want to read, and I felt like it kind of ruined some of the book for me. And I just wish that that was not like executed the way it was.
What I did like about the book is that some chapters were.
All right, so as I'm sure you guys were able to see from that video, the overarching theme was that a lot of it was pretty boring. And it was a good book, but there were a lot of parts that were boring and dragged on and made us not like the book as much. Like that was really the main part of the Flipgrid. Otherwise, we wouldn't have really been able to see this, how everyone felt the same way, and Mrs. Woodard wouldn't have really been able to see this as blatantly. And we had what next after the Flipgrid is we came up with a problem-based learning activity, or PBLA for short. We had the task of making the book a little bit less boring. Yeah, we did. This was the exact thing that we did. That was our overall thing that we had to do. Those were the prompts, and we had to find a way to make the book less boring. We had, and this was what we did. We had to make a 5-scene play. We used something called Storyboard That, and various other tools like that. This was all right. Yeah, I'll just play.
On my journey around the personal nostalgic desert school.
But yeah, we basically used that for Storyboard That. We did little 5-act plays, and so we could get more. So the book, we could see the book better, and in different pictures, we get able to understand and see the book a little bit better.
He wanted this to work out. I remember when I first jumped after that moment, the Super Suicide Society summer session was generated. There was a time of panic I felt rush through my body.
You were not there to be there to catch me. What would have happened to be uncertain?
So essentially what they did was they said there was a problem with the book, and I said, fix it. And we utilized the technology for them to come up with a way to fix it. So they made the book less boring by actually creating a play that they wrote, that they directed, that they edited, that they create these little the voiceovers, all of it. So now the book's less boring.
In a typical English classroom, like at the end of a reading unit, we would be assigned to like write a paper or a blue book. And doing that, we only addressed 2 skills, writing and analysis. But throughout this activity, we learned collaboration, creativity, how to work with peers. We had genuine conversation about literature that we would not have had if we were just assigned a blue book.
The PBLA wasn't like the only source of technology that we used in the class. We also used like other programs called like Actively Learn. So basically what it did was like, it was a short story in the program, and throughout reading the story, it would ask you questions. And if you got the question wrong, right away, our teacher, Miss Woodard, was able to respond to it and help us get on the right path to like figure it out, which is way better than traditional just reading a short story, answering a bunch of questions, coming in the next day and figuring out what is right and wrong. We also did an essay, and throughout the essay, we handed in basically like a final draft, and our teacher graded it. And a lot of kids, they got a lot of things wrong. They didn't really understand. So instead of just being like, this is your final grade, you're gonna have to just do better next time, she gave us a thing called Second Chance Learning, where she then put up videos of different lessons that we could like then go on and do like ourselves, watch the videos, basically reteach ourselves how to fix the problems that we had. And then we had a second chance of trying to figure out how to write the essay, which in the long term, we actually learned how to write instead of just a teacher being like, oh, you got it wrong, just hope you do better next time.
So finally, we'd like to show you that technology is such an important part in our learning in school today. So our traditional method of learning is a blue book. After we read a book, we have to write in the blue book, which only focuses on our writing and our analysis, which when we use the technology by making the Flipgrid, we accomplish so much more things. We have writing, competition, creativity, analysis, organization. And like Ms. Woodard said earlier, it's really up to you guys to determine the depth of our learning and how successful we are. If we stay traditional, you see what we accomplished, which is only writing and analysis. And if we go more innovative with the technology and we're able to create stuff like this, it allows us to go further with our learning.
So thank you guys very much for giving us an opportunity to speak about the work that we're doing in our class.
I think it's an important aspect, and I think one of the things that you see, and I appreciate you bringing that to us. Part of that, and what I'm hearing too, is that's the immediate feedback. Things have the amount of response time. Our world has hastened quite a bit. There was a discussion, that television was killed by the Kennedy assassination because the newspapers couldn't keep up with how fast the news was going, and then now newspapers, they're passé. And in many ways, when we look at Twitter now, when you want to know what's going on in the world from immediacy, you can get the information on Twitter because people who are there are so there's a whole sense of immediacy. And I think that comes across as well in the analysis that it's hard to invest time if you've missed a subtle point and you're running it the wrong way. And I hear that in your voices as you say that you get immediate feedback and you can help revise that, stay on track. And I think that gives you a more rewarding experience, so I appreciate that. And the other aspect that you talk about, and it's important, is the collaboration. More and more in my workplace, there was a time we used to joke that the executive in the firm basically had a pen, a pencil, and a telephone on the desk. And you work by yourself a lot. Now, collaboration, I work in an international environment, and my day starts early in the morning because I'm on with Finland, Sweden, and the UK, and we're working collaboratively using technology. I think it's a good entree for what you're going to have to do. And I appreciate you taking the time to speak with us about it. Any other board members have a perspective?
I just loved hearing. I mean, that's really impressive. It's great, and to see the engagement of all the students, that's the best part. So thanks so much for coming.
It's a wonderful example of 21st century skills at play. So, Ms. Woodard, congratulations. And to our students, excellent job.
And let me give you a sense of insight from the board. This past year, the past couple years, just this year, a couple years, we had the technology teachers. What are we calling them at the elementary grade? There you go. And the key word there is the integration. It's taking the technology and integrating it into learning. It's how do you make it? And this board has, I don't want to give away a secret, but this board, our plan was originally that we were going to implement that same level of service at our middle schools. And I believe, I'm not telling tales out of school, that this board has seen the value of that at the elementary level. So we're going to continue at some levels, yes, I don't want to get it wrong. Yes. We're going to continue the elementary technology specialists, integration specialists, and at the middle schools. So you guys, you learned it the hard way. People coming up behind you are going to have that really ingrained. And I think you've made a good case for why we're doing that at the lower levels as well. So thanks for helping to justify what we do here and making that decision for the elementary and middle schools. Thank you. With that, we're going to move on to, we've done the approval. We're going to move on to the Academic Standards Committee meeting. Ms. McKee is away. Can I ask either Ms. Brooks or Ms. McKessie to summarize, or with the assistance of Dr. Elliott, what happened at the most recent Academic Standards meeting? Or not? Dr. Elliott.
Sorry. Well, because of the change in the schedule of board committee meetings, we actually have not had an Academic Standards Committee meeting since the last board meeting. Our next Academic Standards Committee meeting is May 31st, and that will be where we'll be looking at the approval of new textbooks for next year, as well as a couple other items, calendar discussion, and a discussion of an agreement with a company called Qualtrics for some analytic work and things that we can do to really support teachers and student learning. So there were no other items other than what's listed here.
Terrific. Can I have a motion for the consent agenda from the Academic Standards Committee, please?
I move to approve the consent agenda items B and C as listed.
Second. I believe D is
Oh,
also
and
included.
D. Yeah, B, C, and D.
Second. Mr. Forward says. There are no objections. I'll ask for the secretary to record this passing with unanimous consent. Very good. I'll ask for a motion for the approval of graduates for class of 2018.
I'd be happy to do it.
Please do that.
Mr. Tate has a graduate.
Mr. Tate has a graduate. Please.
Pardon me?
You have a graduating senior. Please make the motion.
All right. Let me go back. I was looking at policy committee. Where are we?
You're going to approve.
E. Got it. I move to approve, thank you, Ms. McKessie, the 2018 graduate listings as contained in the attachments to this agenda, pending completion of all graduation requirements.
Second.
There is no objection. I'll ask the secretary to record this as passing with unanimous consent. We would now normally look to the representative from MBIT to give a report. As that is Mr. Bialik and Mr. Block, we're going to defer that report for this evening and move on to the Bucks County Intermediate Unit, where Ms. Brooks is our representative.
So at our last meeting, we had a discussion about the 18-19 budget. The thing that's important to understand about the IU budget is that the IU is not a taxing authority. The budget really just outlines the revenue and expenditures for 26 different entities that they work with to deliver their services. This year's budget is $155.8 million. Next year's will be $163.3 million, which is a 4.82% increase. We'll be voting on that final budget in June. And as always, our meetings are occupied with a lot of conversation about legislative issues and things that should be on the horizon for us as board directors and school districts to know about what's affecting education. So the things that we talked about this month, well, first and foremost, we talked about the state budget. They're hoping, there's indication they're hoping to have their budget approved by the end of June. And there was a report that there was $173 million of more revenue than they had originally estimated, so that's good. We talked about House Bill 866, which has been signed by the governor, so it's now called Act 18 of 2018. And this affects potentially earned income tax because it's expanding the states that give credit if you work in one state and live in another. So we're going to have to see how that will play out for Council Rock. There is discussion about House Bill 638, which will prohibit the cross-filing of school board candidates in their elections. The House passed that bill 114 to 77, so it is now in the Senate. And so certainly we should be keeping our eye on that. It would certainly change the flavor of some of our elections if they become more partisan. There's a House Bill 2137 and also a Senate Bill 1048 that is being discussed to prohibit schools from being polling places. It doesn't look like there's much traction on that, but as we know in Harrisburg, sometimes these bills sit and then they get resurrected. So I just wanted to let everybody know that that's on the radar. And so there's a lot of talk about the different property tax alternatives. And so, earlier this year we were talking about the elimination of property tax coinciding with an increase in the sales tax and personal income tax. There's now a new bill, Senate Bill 1137, which takes away the sales tax component, but proposes to increase the personal income tax by 2%, raising it to 5.05%. But the bill is written in a way that it would allow for cost of living increases annually. So we had a long conversation at our meeting about what that means if you are going to incorporate cost of living increases into a personal income tax. I mean, the increases on that could escalate pretty quickly, so that's something to watch. Senate Bill 2, which we talked about earlier this year, which is the bill that establishes education savings accounts, which many are calling a voucher program in disguise, is gaining a lot of momentum, and it is important if you have an opinion about this to bring it to your state senators, because this is coming coming close to being considered. 10 of the 13 school districts in Bucks County passed resolutions. Council Rock was one of them in opposition. And across the state, 225 districts, or 45% of the state, has expressed opposition. Next year, the PDE has announced a new testing schedule for PSSA. So they've condensed the window of time where they're going to be administered. And for the first time, they're saying test scores will be available to parents next June. So you're actually going to receive the results of your test scores in the school year that the test was taken. We'll see if that actually happened. And finally, the state has seen a lot more interest from school districts in school safety initiatives because of just world events, and that has sparked renewed interest in the PlanCon committee because sometimes these school safety initiatives require some significant investments in facilities. So there is an expectation that a new PlanCon program will be implemented in the 1920 school year with a clearer, more predictable process and a better formula for school districts to work with. But of course, it will ultimately all depend on whether there's enough money to actually fund this, but something to keep our eye on for the year after next. There you go.
So not much was going on. No, it's a lot to cover. Thank you for covering so much of it. Can we take a moment? There was one item on that list which is unique in terms of our interest in it as board members, even if we're running or if we're not running again. That would be the House Bill 638, which prohibits cross-filing for board members. Right now, there are 2 positions in the state of Pennsylvania on the ballot that permit people to file as both a Republican and Democrat at the same time. And those are done, those are judges and school board directors. And the historical aspect of that is those 2 positions should be devoid of politics. They should be based on the best level of service, and they are not political patronage jobs. They should be devoid of politics. You can probably tell my opinion. I wonder if any other board member has a perspective on this that they'd like to express. I certainly will give mine, given half a chance.
Yeah, I submitted a statement to the PSBA website that was soliciting board members' comments, saying that I think it's a horrendous idea. One of the things that, if I can speak personally, one of the things that made a difference to me when I was considering running for school board was the fact that there was the opportunity to cross-file and avoid getting embroiled in political race that really is sort of irrelevant to whether or not you wish to serve the school district and the people of the school district. I think it would dissuade a lot of right-minded, passionate, smart people from running for school board if they're facing some sort of political contest that they have no experience in or no desire to become involved in. So I think it would be a huge mistake for the state to eliminate the opportunity for school board directors to cross-file.
I think another way to do that is to eliminate political party endorsements. There's another way that there's no filing because there's no endorsements. That to me would be the absolute best way to keep the politics out of the school board.
And for me, on that level, that's exactly my perspective, which is I think that Harrisburg has got this 180 degrees wrong, absolutely backwards. I believe that the right way to do it is to bring the best candidates forward, allow those candidates to stand on their merits, and vote on them and get out of the endorsement process entirely. I'm not running again. I've cross-filed with opposition, I've cross-filed without opposition. I will give you this example. I have 2 examples that I give. One is the other week we sat here with 2 people in front of us to interview, Mr. Hidalgo and another fellow. Both were pretty qualified guys. That was the last thing on my mind, which was what party were they? My question was, did they have the will, intent, and capability of serving the district? I was fortunate to have 2 people with that, and I get to choose. I couldn't have made the wrong decision no matter which way I went. The other one, I will tell you, and I tell you this as a matter of pride, and speaks of your predecessor, during the Romney campaign, right after Hurricane Sandy, I received a call from the county Republican chair asking me if our buildings were open. Romney wanted to have a campaign. It'd be an honor to have any national political figure speak in one of our schools. And I called our superintendent at the time, Mr. Klein, and I said, I got a call from the, and he said, well, why are they calling you? I said, what do you mean? He goes, you're a Democrat. I went, actually, I'm a Republican. Actually, I'm a Republican committeeman. The man had served with me on this board in excess of 8 years, knowing me as a citizen in this community for more than 15 years. Party wasn't the issue. It was the intent of providing a quality education to students. So I will tell you, in my opinion, House Bill 638 is 100% backwards. Kyle, to your point, it should take the parties out of the entire pet task of school board and leave it as, if you want to get the nomination, you run on the merits, and that's where you go.
I was wondering if you,
Microphone.
well, one of the benefits I thought of doing the school board, I thought was, hey, I get to cross file. You know, there's no political agenda here. You're doing it for the children, right? You're doing it to serve the community. And I thought that something that was weird is when in my article, they mentioned what my political party was, and I have no idea how in the article when I was, Bucks County Courier-Times announced it, how they would even know what my political party was when I never registered or to file as a Democrat or a Republican. So I thought that was kind of weird that the paper would get involved with politics. I think that's part of the problem is the media getting involved with politics. But yeah, I would not be in favor. I think cross-filing is important. I think that's how you build bridges. It might start with something like that from the school board.
Would the board be willing to entertain a position to be considered at our 24th meeting? We are assembled as a public meeting to agree to possibly send something forward to Harrisburg with opposition to this bill. Would the board consider that? I'm not asking you to vote on it, but you would consider it. We would consider it. Let's do that. Okay. That'll be me. Mrs. O'Grady. Terrific. Thank you. I apologize for the indulgence, but I think it is something that has an enduring message for our board, for our community. We're going to move on to policy. Mr. Tate, this is yours.
Yes, I think 5A is redundant or superfluous, if you will. I think we just need 5B. Approval of revised policies, which we reviewed and discussed at policy committee meeting on April 26th. There are 6 policies which we revised. Migrant students, standards for persistently dangerous schools, standards for victims of violent crimes, medications, homeless students, and educational stability for children in foster care. We discussed with the administration the changes that were recommended by PSBA and got administrative input, and these revised policies are ready for board approval. So,
please make a motion.
I move to approve the board policies listed.
Second.
Unless I hear an objection, I'm going to ask for the secretary to record all 6 policies as having passed with unanimous consent. Very good, thank you. Moving on to the finance committee.
I'm sorry, I should mention, since the committee meeting schedule has changed, we have a policy committee meeting on Monday night this coming week, which is unusual for us to meet on a Monday night, but that's when policy is going to meet from now on.
Very good.
Excuse me.
I may participate remotely.
That's the idea. We encourage it.
In Virginia.
Very good.
Finance committee. Mr. Reinhardt, I'm going to impose upon you a little bit just to give the high level topics. We have the agenda items speak for themselves.
Have them
but
all
since
here
Mr.
in front of
Block and
me.
Mr. Bialik are out this evening.
I was prepared to speak.
Thank you.
The first item was an investment update. Now that we've gone to the new system, we do an update every quarter. And good news that came out of that is with rising interest rates, we were able to recommend an increase in our budget over the $1 million. We're going to go to 1.25 million based on interest rates going up and how well our performance is on our investment programs. That was a very brief update. The next presentation was regarding the 2018-19 final budget. It was given historic budget information. Then we went over the estimated revenues, and we spent a lot of time on earned income taxes and where the revenues are coming in. And then we went into the appropriations as they look right now in the preliminary budget and went over adjustments. And we're able to make some adjustments. And I think we're going to look at that with the final review on June 14th with final adoption on June 14th. And I'm in the process of crunching the numbers and getting all that together and getting the resolution together. We also then went into the board agenda. There are several bids that are just regular bids that are on the agenda that we didn't go over there just because every year we go have those bids. But there are also a passenger van bid that we're rejecting tonight. And that was really because the model years were in between model years and we weren't getting the bids that we expected. There's also a contract with Gallagher that we are renewing for this year and next year. And that was brought to you in July, but there was a commission audit that we had to do based on the commissions that they were paid there, and that is complete now, so we're good with that.
Gallagher is our benefits advisory company.
I did go over your workers' comp with the retrospective plan that we have and showed that we do have to make a payment into 1 year due to a high claim. But I did show you the historical perspective on that, and we've done very well in the 5 years that we were there. We're no longer in the retrospective plan. We are now in a fully insured plan because of the marketing of it and the soft market we're in. I talked about that. And then we did review the middle school piano bid, which is also on the agenda tonight. And we're going to purchase 2 Boston type pianos as opposed to the B type. And that was the agenda in a nutshell. I hope I got over enough detail.
Any, can I ask, Mr. Hidalgo, can you make the motion for the approval of items B through R? It's on page, yeah, it's the top of page 6.
I recommend to approve
Correct.
items B to R as listed on the consent agenda.
Second.
From a point of discussion, a few things I wanted to point out. We have the bid list. It is much more extensive than it has been in past years. I want to compliment Mr. Reinhardt on that. Mr. Reinhardt has worked devilishly hard to bring many things back that would normally have been approved during the year as onesie-twosies where we wouldn't have gotten good bid prices. He's brought them back, so when we look through the bid prices, sometimes you look at it and you go, well, this is a very small number. What he's been able to do, though, is bring it back and really drive volume purchase. So that's a terrific thing that you've done for us. The second thing I want to acknowledge is that prior to the board committee meeting, Mr. Reinhardt did hold a public session within this room. It's televised, it's on YouTube, topic specific regarding the budget review. So I appreciate you doing that, running through that twice that evening. And lastly, I also wanted to point out, he spoke to the acquisition of pianos. I really appreciate the indulgence of the academic team within our district and the music coordination team within our district. There had been a proposal earlier for some other brands of instruments, which were about twice the expense. And after consideration and working through it, we were able to come to a reasonable, moderate solution, which reduces the expense by half. I also want to compliment Mr. Hidalgo for doing some independent research in that space. We are buying, we were initially looking at Steinway baby grand pianos. Which were quite expensive, and we have now reduced that to being Boston by Steinway pianos. Am I wrong? You're looking.
Grand. They were grand. They were just a different.
Grand, sorry, but they are now called they are Steinway, but they are Boston. They're Boston by Steinway. And what I attribute to Mr. Hidalgo was in researching it, he discovered that with these pianos, if at some time within the first 10 years you wish to upgrade, you get the full value that you paid for the piano. Now, I appreciate there would be potential cost increase in the piano over time, but this allows us to invest in pianos that are appropriate to the middle school, and if the conditions permit or situations merit, within the next 10 years, that's a flat adjustment. Certainly we won't receive interest on it, but we will certainly benefit from the full value of those pianos on trade-in. So Mr. Hidalgo, new to the board, but I appreciate you're looking and doing a little bit of independent study and helping us to find that.
Thank you.
Any other comment on these motions? Hearing no objection, I'm going to ask for approval by unanimous consent. So moved. Sorry. We're now up to item S. Is it S? Mr. Thorwald, can you make the motion for item S?
Sure.
Thank you.
I move to approve Category 2 laptops and docking stations in bid number 18-25 in the amount of $386,408.75 to Troxel Communications Incorporated, subject to audit.
Second.
Any discussion? This is coming out of the 2018-2019 IT budget. Hearing no objection, I'm going to ask this be recorded as passing with unanimous consent. Mr. Somebody want to do the rejection?
I'll do the rejection too. I move to reject Category 1 desktops in bid number 18-25.
Second.
Very good. Hearing no objection, I'll ask for that to be recorded as passing with unanimous consent. Why don't you continue with you, and then I'll ask Mr. Hidalgo to pick up with V after you complete.
Sure. Hang on a second. I'm looking for the motion.
Page 13.
Page 13. Give me a second. It's not in the thing. There is no motion.
Mrs. Brooks, if you have it.
I move to approve bid 18-36, moving services, computer equipment in the amount of $7,797 to Simonic Transportation and Warehouse Group, subject to audit.
Second. I was missing the I move to on this thing.
No problem. Sorry. Hearing no objection. Actually, I need to note that Ms. McKessie is awake, so we'll do a quick roll call. It's reported she's absent. Very good. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Thank you. Mr. Hidalgo, if you'll do the personnel actions, which are V, and the personnel addendum, which is X.
About W.
W is slightly different, just if you do
Okay.
V and X.
I move to approve the personnel actions contained in the attachments to this agenda. Try that again.
That should serve.
I move to approve the personnel actions as contained in the attachments to this agenda.
Second.
Very good. That's for items V and X.
Correct.
Any objection? Hearing no objection, again noting the absence of Ms. McKessie. Can I have a motion around the Southeast LLC agreement? Mr. Tate, I'm sorry to be bouncing around.
No, it's item W.
Correct.
The Human Resources Department requests the approval of the attached agreement between Council Rock School District and ESS Southeast LLC, Source for Teachers, to provide professional staff substitute placement services to Council Rock School District for the 2018-2019 school year.
Second.
Very good. A note to Mr. Cox. Do we need to vote on the rescission of the current vendor? You'll consider that on the list.
Well, no, for this reason. The contract, Ms. Taylor is going to correct me if I say something inaccurate here, but Ms. Taylor sent me the contract that the district is terminating related to this approval earlier this week, and interfaced with me about the proper procedure for terminating that contract. We went over what that procedure was. Ms. Taylor prepared a letter to send to that vendor, simply confirming that the contract would lapse on its own terms as of June 30th, 2018. So it wasn't like the district was terminating the contract early or looking to escape it early. So that expires June 30th, 2018. Ms. Taylor sent the letter, is going to send a letter. I think that's sufficient, Mr. Brown.
I just wanted to require board action. Very good. You want to take a moment, Mrs. Taylor, and explain what this, what we're doing here with this?
Sure.
I will be very, very brief. Last year, we spoke in depth about utilizing a third-party provider for our professional staff substitutes. And at that time, we had chosen a vendor. And this year, we worked with that vendor, and they did a nice job, but the fill rates were not quite what we had hoped for. So with the contract expiring at the end of the school year, we did some exploration, and we're hoping that the new partnership will yield some better results.
Terrific, terrific. Yes, and I appreciate your looking into this. This was an important aspect for this contract. It is difficult to get substitute teachers, and when we have that, it means that we're pushing administration into doing it. We're pulling people out of prep period to cover. It is not a good situation either for our staff or our students. And the numbers you've shown us, the experience record for this service that we're now acquiring looks to be superior to what we were dealing with, and so we're hopeful for that. Economically, I believe the numbers from a cost perspective are the same or better for what we're moving to. So it's fully, I will tell you, it's fully within your discretion. And at least for me as a board member, I'm glad to support your examination and your doing the work.
Thank you. The cost is exactly the same, which is a benefit. It is challenging times to find substitute teachers and substitute professionals. You know, as we know, the numbers are dwindling for those entering the profession, those graduating. So it's becoming just a very challenging enterprise.
Terrific. Unless I hear,
I was going to say that the Chamonix and the other ones are getting like 80% cover, over 80%, and we're down in the 70s. Or so they're guaranteeing any guarantee that they're going to be making that kind of impact on us.
They feel confident that they'll be able to influence our fill rates and for us to see an improvement. The partnerships that they have in Bucks County, they have had for 5 years. So some of the, I would imagine that the continued partnership helps the fill rates, but we feel that they are going to be able to do good things for us.
And included within that is that they're actually going to have a site manager specific to the Council Rock School District that's going to be here either in this building or in one of our schools, full-time basis, just to oversee our sub-coverage on a day-to-day, week-to-week basis. So we're really excited about that.
one of the other things that's important to look at here as well is this entire service. If someone were to say, why are we not doing it ourselves? One, not only is there the labor component of having to do it and research and be on the phone and chase and get, but the second thing is there's also a component here of if the district were to be the employer of these substitute teachers, there's a component potentially of hiring a retired teacher where there'd be PSERS questions or retirement questions, and that becomes complex. Being hired through a separate LLC, which is not a school district entity, means that we're able to pick up those people on a per diem basis and not have to pay that PSERS contribution. If I'm wrong, correct me. But
no, you're correct. There are a great number of benefits in addition to what you just mentioned. We also are able to utilize subs 5 days a week. Here, if we were to employ directly, there would be some limitation, or else it would trigger their entitlement to health insurance. We also are able to, the third-party vendor becomes responsible for unemployment, workers' compensation. So there are a number of benefits in addition to those that you illustrated.
I have a question. What is the impact for the subs? Because I actually know a lot of people who sub in the district, and so at the beginning of this year, they had to go through training and transition things with Insight. What are we doing for the people that, as we transition to a new company, is that a burdensome thing for them?
No, I don't think so, and it's a priority that we keep the subs that we have now. So similar to when we onboarded our subs last year to Insight, we'll hold events here ongoing throughout the spring, and I anticipate that it will be rather painless.
I believe we're up for the vote. If there's no objection, I'm going to ask for this to be recorded as passing with unanimous consent. Very good, thank you. Mr. Dr. Thorward, Facilities Committee.
Facilities. Brief overview. We had our every time energy management update. We're doing really well. We did discuss security in the schools in two components. One was the ALICE component, which you'll see a vote for tonight. It's a slightly different method for active safety issues versus the current program we have in place. The other component was our annual replacement of cameras to make sure that we're just staying on top of them as we go forward. Update on the 2 middle schools, where they are and how we're moving along. And if the board needs to, we can have Mr. Taylor talk about that some more. We did discuss bids for the Wrightstown Elementary School additions and renovations. And we also discussed design and budget updates for the Rolling Hills Elementary School additions and renovations project. And then lastly, in that chunk of the meeting, moving services. As you know, we're going to be moving schools around. I think it's going to be a logistical dance, to say the least, but Mr. Taylor's got it under control, so we'll leave it with that. We do have our standard summer project updates, which Mr. Taylor went through in detail. You can see those online, and some service contract materials as well. So it was a long meeting. I was surprised. It took quite a while. So that's it in a nutshell. Mr. Block, Mr. Tate, and Mr. Bilick were not there. The rest, so Mr. Tate's here tonight, but the rest of the board members were there for that meeting on May 3rd and have heard all this already. So here you go.
Very good. Can I ask you to make a motion for B, and I would believe you could also include the Alice training of F in your motion together, those two together.
No one has a disagreement. I'm happy to. I move to approve Facilities Committee consent agenda items B and F as listed in this agenda, subject to audit.
Second.
Is there any objection? Very good. We'll record that as passing with unanimous consent. That was item F, was discussed at the meeting. It is the Alice training. This is a training for preparing students and staff for responding to situations at a school with an active aggressor. And this is an approval. As we spoke with our police departments today, I know that Dr. Thorward, Chuck Lambert, a number of people involved in this have been in touch with the police department who've given their agreement and consent to participate in this program. So, thank you. Continue with your C, D, and E.
Let's do them one at a time since the motions are somewhat biblical in length. I'll try C. I may have to stop for a drink. I move, this is the, I've got water. I move to award the bid for the Wrightstown Elementary School additions and renovations project, General Construction Depend Builders, Inc., at a total cost not to exceed $8,292,000, including alternate numbers 2 and 3, contingent upon approval of bonds and insurance and subject to audit. I further move to award the bid for the Wrightstown Elementary School additions and renovations project, mechanical construction, to JBM Mechanical Incorporated, at a total cost not to exceed $2,225,000, contingent upon the approval of bonds and insurance and subject to audit. Further, I move to award the bid for the Wrightstown Elementary School additions and renovations project, electrical construction, to Borough Developers Incorporated, doing business as Borough Construction, at a total cost not to exceed $987,440, including alternates number 7 and 8, contingent upon approval of bonds and insurance and subject to audit. Further, I move to award the bid for the Wrightstown Elementary School additions and renovations project, plumbing construction, to Stan Roche Plumbing at a total cost not to exceed $859,500, including alternates number 3, contingent upon approval of bonds and insurance and subject to audit. Lastly, I move to award the bid for the Wrightstown Elementary School additions and renovations project, environmental abatement, to Sargent Enterprises Incorporated, at a total cost not to exceed $99,242, contingent upon approval of bonds and insurance and subject to audit. That's a total cost not to exceed $13,463,182.
Second.
Any discussion?
Well, I'm new to the board, and when I saw this come up on the agenda, I was kind of thinking coming in, struggling whether to abstain or something like that, because I wasn't here for and have a full understanding of the background of the choices that were made. So my question was whether or not, this project stands alone on the fact of how many kids are in that Wrightstown that they can man this school, the way things are. And that's what I wanted to make sure, that I wasn't voting for something that we were planning on already redistricting before we even got demographic information and all that. And I like the work that Doug did. I think the school's 60 years old, and we've got to systematically fix the infrastructure. We have a capital plan, and done a fantastic job. What I heard mostly was about a gymnasium, which I couldn't imagine building a school without a gymnasium. So I thought that was important that be included. Then it came to that we're looking at, actually putting out the bids and going forward, even though Richboro is going to be Wrightstown next year. Richboro Middle is going to be Wrightstown. I think we're really far down the road. But that's something that I was actually concerned about coming in. So then coming in, we're missing 3 people from the board tonight, so my vote really could impact things. And so I talked to Andy, because I was pretty sure he was 100% for this, and going to vote affirmative, but couldn't be here tonight. And so I thought I will have his vote, because if I abstained, then maybe his vote wouldn't count, and we'd be just a week. Maybe next week we would vote on it again, and it would pass. So I just wanted to know that I'm struggling with making a vote, but knowing that Andy would vote for it, then I would vote for the affirmative.
And I appreciate that. It is a situation which we have encountered at times historically, where we know that a board member who's absent and can't participate in the vote would be the deciding vote in something, and for it would potentially have an impact on the progress. And I certainly do appreciate your reaching out to Andy and making that exploration with him. First of all, that you comforted yourself with the conversation with Doug with regard to the restoration of 5th and 6th grade to that building, which we had diminished that building, but also reaching out to Andy. And I certainly do appreciate, we speak about good board visitors. And sometimes, I think each of us had to act on behalf of someone we know had a different opinion and would have been the tipping of the scale. And I certainly do appreciate your, again, reaching out on your own and going to speak with Andy and explore what his position was. So I appreciate that. Mrs. Brooks, I think you had a comment.
Yeah, I'm 100% in favor of the renovation of that building. But I am not comfortable committing to this money at this point, just 7 days before a demographic study will be discussed to direct our long-term capital planning and the redistricting of students that are clearly going to be impacted by the decision of this vote. So the data is just not there for me to support it. My decisions are always informed by the data. So it's not that I am opposed to the renovation, but to commit to this project 7 days before we have an opportunity to discuss amongst ourselves and with the public a new demographic report, and the decisions that we're going to make around that make me uncomfortable in supporting this tonight.
Very good. Any other board comments? Hearing none, go ahead, Mr. Thorne.
Doug, you were planning on breaking ground Monday?
We have contractually the documents that were bid on has the contractor's notice to proceed issued on Monday, the 21st.
Okay.
So will they be out there with a bulldozer digging in the dirt that day? No, but the timeline for the construction activities begin on Monday, the 21st of May, and continue through the beginning of July 2019. So if we miss the start of that, we contractually owe the contractors time at the minimum by delaying the start because they bid knowing that was the start date.
Question, just, so so we're bringing 5th and 6th grade back to Wrightstown, and that part of the renovation in court is taking that into consideration, and the work has to be done. So regardless of the demographic study, the renovation has to go forward, and would you be opposed to getting it back to a 6th grade? We want to get, I think we all want it to be up to 6th grade to be a normal school, right? I think.
Your opinion, Dr. Fisher?
I certainly do. Yeah, I want uniformity and consistency at the elementary level as well as the other two levels. For us to have one school that's K-4, in my mind's eye, is no kind of a permanent solution. So we did what we had to do from a modular classroom standpoint there for the past couple of years, and that was fine and understandable and acceptable. But as we look long term, I absolutely want to see our elementary schools be K-6 with the gym.
I'll just clarify, in and of itself, I'm not opposed to the school being K-6. The issue is that, and the board received the demographic report last night. I have only had an opportunity to glance at it, but I have a lot of questions about what that report indicates, because I'm not voting no about the building per se. I'm voting no because I don't have a clear understanding of where who's going to fill these seats, where these students are coming from. And so it's about the kids. I can't, but for me, it's unfortunate. The timing is this. If we had had the demographic report 2 weeks ago, we would have been able to make a very informed decision. But we are committing to putting students in a building if we're moving forward with this project, and we don't know where the enrollment trends are, who's going to be populating those classrooms, and it just is not something that's comfortable. And quite frankly, the likelihood of the enrollment area in this school are the families that I represent, and it's something kind of ironic or something that, if this goes through, the overwhelming majority of students in Wrightstown are going to move out of that school. There's a huge impact on this redistricting that we will be guided by that demographic report. And so, will it make a difference when we talk next week? And might I have been more comfortable? Maybe, but we haven't had the conversation. And so, absent of that, I'm just not prepared to say that this is something that I am comfortable with.
I think, Mr. Hidalgo has an appreciation of the fact that this process has been going on for months and months, and it's a very well thought out plan. I think it's going to be a marvelous improvement to Wrightstown Elementary. I think that community deserves a school, and deserves a school that's on parity with the other elementary schools across the district. We have a lot of conversation about parity among our buildings at the high school level, the middle school level, and the elementary. So I think this is a well thought out project that we've discussed at length. And I think it's a really prudent thing to do. It should be noted, as Mr. Taylor noted in the agenda notes, that the bids were favorable and approximately $150,000 below the project budget, including some value-added alternatives. So I think this is a sound project that's had a really thorough examination. And what then will follow will be, with the new demographic information, a new look at our redistricting process. And we will redistrict in a smart and thoughtful fashion with the buildings that we have in place. And we need a solid, newly renovated building in Wrightstown. And I think this is a really smart move.
I have a question for the solicitor, because I made the motion. All these bids are subject to bonds approval and there's caveats on all these motions, correct? So,
There are, and each of the contracts is terminable on relatively short notice by the district, which is not a painless
I
process,
understand.
but still an option that the district has. The district has needed to call in payment and performance bonds on other projects in recent weeks and months. And so part of these contracts requires the contractors to deliver those items.
And we don't foresee issues with the bonds. We've taken a look at what they've initially provided in terms of the rating of the bonds. We still, to perform our due diligence, pass them through Rob to make sure he doesn't see anything that we don't. Obviously, he has a keener eye than we do, but we don't see any concerns.
Let me explain to the community when we're speaking about bonds and insurance. When you enter into a large construction project or you're developing a road or any one of these municipal projects, what a bond is that the contractor that we're hiring has to post either money or insurance that will cover the expense to complete the project should that vendor be unable to complete the project. So when we speak about bonds and insurance, this is not a direct expense of the district. This is a direct expense on the person we're hiring that says, just like, you know, when you see a truck go by, you hire someone to come work in your house and they're bonded, they're insured, they're qualified, and someone has insured them that if they're unable to complete the job, this insurance firm will provide funds and supervision to get the job completed to the specifications of the contract. So that's, when we're talking about bonds and insurance, it's not an obligation of the district, it's an obligation of the provider to get that, so we come into it fully protected and with the execution of the project assured.
And Dr. Thorward, just to mention one other thing. Mr. Taylor put language regarding bonds and insurance in the motion, really is just a belt and suspenders approach. And I think probably just to let the board know that you know, they're cognizant of those issues. The contracts that the board is approving, if it approves them, requires the contractors to provide payment and performance bonds, and also insurance with limits acceptable to the district. So those things are already in the contracts and are required to be delivered under those contracts. I think this language in the motion is really just to let the board know that the administration is on that issue, you know.
Okay. Any further comment? I will ask for a roll call vote, please.
Dr. Thorward,
yes.
Mr. Tate,
Yes.
Mr. Hidalgo,
Yes.
Ms. Brooks,
No.
Mr. Grubb,
Yes.
Mrs. McKesson.
Yes.
Before we make the next motion, I would also like to acknowledge the supervisor from Wrightstown, Jane Magnan, is here. And I acknowledge it because Jane, in our review process, where Eastburn and Gray and Doug have been for the committees within Wrightstown, the committees within Wrightstown has been very cooperative. You know, they're still working to protect the interests of the persons in Wrightstown, but their level of interaction, the speed with which they respond is greatly appreciated. So Jane, thank you for you and your board's attention to detail in that realm. Thank you. Mr. Thorward, Dr. Thorward, if you're up to continuing with your soliloquy for the evening, we'll move on to D.
Item D, I move to award the HVAC testing, adjusting, balancing professional service agreement to Butler Balancing Company Incorporated at a total not to exceed fee of $24,000, which includes an allowance of $10,000 for potential additional testing services subject to audit. Further, I move to award the HVAC commissioning professional service agreement to Aramark at a total not to exceed fee of $28,000, which includes an allowance of $5,160 for potential additional testing services subject to audit. And lastly, I move to award the construction testing professional services agreement to David Blackmore and Associates at a total not to exceed fee of $60,000, which includes an allowance of $11,100 for potential additional testing services subject to audit, for a total professional fees not to exceed of $112,000.
Second.
I would think that any conversation would be very much in line with the conversation we just had on the previous item. And so unless I hear other conversation, I'll ask for a roll call vote. Everybody's okay with the roll call vote? Very good, please, roll call.
Mrs. Brooks?
No.
Mr. Hidalgo?
Yes.
Mr. Tate?
Yes.
Mr. Grubb?
Yes.
Bessie?
Yes.
Yes,
Motion passes. And lastly, Mike, you can.
I can do this one.
That
This one's easy.
Yeah.
I move to approve Plan Con Part F, Attachment C, subject to audit.
Second.
This is the standard paperwork we do for any construction project, so.
Exactly, this is paperwork filing. Are you okay with this, or you will want to vote this?
You can do that as unanimous consent.
Very good. Unless I hear an objection from anyone else, or I haven't heard any objections, if I hear any objection, I'm going to ask for it to be recorded as passing with unanimous consent. Thank you. And with that, we have completed our board agenda for the evening. This would open our second period of public comment.
We have board items? No board items?
That's coming after. Would you prefer to?
No, I just ask. I see it on the list.
I'll
Number
put it
8.
away.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
Take it as the board prefers. Okay, we'll go with public comment at this point. This is our second period of public comment. I don't have a sign-in sheet, so I will ask that if you're going to speak a public comment, if you would line up along the wall so that I can keep it moving along, and introduce yourself by name and town, and stay for 3 minutes. And I'll raise the yellow card, it's kind of like soccer, I guess, at when you have 15 minutes left. Please don't let it distract you.
Thank you.
Please.
I just wanted to thank
Name and home.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm Kristen Marcel. I live in Wrightstown, and I'm a Council Rock grad. And I just wanted to come up to say thank you to all of you for all of the hard work that you've been looking at Wrightstown and talking about it and listening to the community, and all of the staff, and just everyone has been wonderful. Doug Taylor has done a lot of work, and I just wanted to thank you all for all the time spent. I know that this isn't easy, and I just wanted to make sure that you receive a thank you. And I look forward to seeing everything progress, but just thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, so no one lined up by the wall. So much for my plan. I guess that will be the conclusion of our public comment for the evening. Thank you very much. Now we'll open up to board comment. We do lay this out as old and new business, so I'm just going to open up for any board comment, board business at this point. Conversation.
I'll just say that Saturday's event at Newtown Middle School was terrific. There was a great turnout. As Dr. Fraser said, it was terrific seeing folks from prior generations enjoying reunions in the hallways. It was really pretty neat. And I mention it mostly to say that I talked to Gail Acosta, the executive director of CREF there, and she and Doug Taylor and others are already talking about having a terrific ribbon cutting at the new Newtown Middle School in September, October. So that's something to look forward to.
Real quick, Doug, and I'll ask the administration and the board, do we plan on, when these middle schools are done, giving tours? Is there going to be enough time as we shift things around?
Well, Newtown's easier than Holland because it's new, and Holland is going to be right up to the end with interior work because we're waiting for students to leave the cafeteria, the library, and the gym.
Right.
So those sections of the building can't be completed until they're finished the school year, and we have a short time to get those completed. But I don't see why sometime, whether it's a weeknight, whenever it is, once we get the buildings moving along and open and functioning, that we can't come out. I know we did that for Holland Elementary School. It was a good event. We did it for Goodnow.
Yeah.
And I'm happy to come some evening and 2 evenings, do them both. And
yeah, because I've been asked, and it would be nice.
I'd love for community to see it.
Yes.
Both of them.
So,
yes.
Okay. All right.
I would be remiss if I didn't say that Andy Senko, when I spoke to him today, had wished he could be here today for the Special Olympics presentation. He I know that's near and dear to his heart, but it was kind of a last second thing to put on the agenda, I believe, for everybody. He had prior engagement, but asked me to convey his congratulations to the children. Regrets for not being there.
Ms. Brooks.
Just want to, because we didn't have a pref update, so I just wanted, actually, the SAB people did a great job, but I just want to model
We have exhibits.
tonight's STEAM presentation, these very attractive t-shirts, so I will proudly wear that. That science night at the that they conduct every year at the high school is really an extraordinary event. And I've consistently made the comment that they tend to host them on Thursday nights, which makes it difficult for, CREF board members like myself or anyone on the board or any of us to attend. So I did get a promise that next year it will not be scheduled on a Thursday night. And I just also want to announce that on May 29th, there's a Take Me Out to the Ball Game event with CREF, an alumni night, Trenton Thunder versus the Phillies, 7 o'clock. CREducationfoundation.org is where you can buy your tickets.
I have a few quick things to speak about. One, we have talked now about the closing of Newtown Middle School on June 8th, starting at 11 o'clock in the morning. Richboro Middle School will be having a Celebrate Be the Legacy. I guess as our president would say, would be Legacy. So to Be the Legacy. At 11 o'clock, there will be tours of Richboro Middle School. And we would invite you to come and see the school. Again, it will still continue to exist. It will become Wrightstown at Richboro next year, but it is still an interesting building to walk through and understand and know where the children have been. I wanted to make a moment to call out, I don't know if I did it last time, so I want to correct an oversight on my part. I had the pleasure of attending the induction summary meeting, which was in this room. Our induction plan is run by Shyla Jackson and Ann DeMeo. These are programs where teachers who are first year in Council Rock have an ongoing educational process here, familiarization and partnering and building teams. It's really, it is a different project than many districts do. It is something which has become part of our nature. It's a very valuable program. It really gives teachers who are starting here in Council Rock that introduction and partnership, and our teams work collaboratively. We've heard Dr. Fraser, Dr. Elliott talk about PLCs, professional learning communities. A big part of that is working together. Working together means knowing each other. These classes give these people the same shared experience, not only in their building, but across buildings. It's a very valuable program. We heard Mrs. Taylor speak before about the difficulty. There are fewer and fewer people going into the practice and going into the discipline of being educators. We want to be an educator of preference. It's not all about money. There are districts that pay more than Council Rock. But the culture of Council Rock is something unique, and this is a program. So for Shyla and Ann, it's very much appreciated, their efforts that they put in. I wanted to call it out here. We called it out in a public meeting, but I'll call it out again, which is you heard us speak this evening about grand pianos and facilitating them in our schools. We actually, it is remarkable to note that we have one grand piano, or baby grand piano, or somewhat grand piano. It's a Steinway from 1916. It is 102 years old, and it is still in use. It's been refurbished, it's still in use. I mention it because as people may have large quality pianos in their homes, if you're looking to downsize, talk to us. We would be more than happy to look at and evaluate the piano and see if it would serve a purpose in our school district. Pianos last a long time when well cared for. Good pianos last even longer. If it happens that someone has a large home and decides to move to a smaller home and can't figure out where to put that 6-foot piano, please speak to us, give us a call. We would need to evaluate it. We need to take instruments that would be of good quality, but we'd be glad to entertain that. And lastly, it's an open question I hope that will come up in either academic standards or in our policy. The question had come to me, it is interesting, about the color of the gowns. We have historically in our school district always had the color of gowns are distinguished by gender. And in talking to some other districts or talking to some other people, the world has changed slightly in terms of what gender definitions are. And this has been a challenge that the community is facing. And the world is different and there are different understandings now. And so I'd like to explore at a forthcoming meeting, not for this year, obviously, but how we decide on what color, who wears what color gowns. And maybe it doesn't go by gender anymore. Maybe it goes by some aspect of alphabetizing or random order. We've always liked, I love the idea of the blue and white gowns. Our colors are blue and white. But I don't know that the colors are as representative now as they may have been 30, 40, 50 years ago. So something I'd like to consider and look at. It's not an edict, but I think it's something we need to look at and see if it adds value having them gender differentiated, or if that's something we can accommodate a different way. Right. Any other public comment? Sorry, board comment?
I like that idea. I make them one color.
No, I appreciate it. We have persons with different concerns and
Yeah, no,
sensibilities, and I think it brings us a little forward to the future, into the current. With that, I will conclude the meeting. I appreciate the cooperation of the community, and I certainly appreciate the cooperation of the board in moving through the agenda quickly. Thank you. We are adjourned. I'm sure I did.